that there will be additional participants hopping on, but for the sake of time, because I know everyone's time right now is very, very sensitive, we're going to get started. So good morning, all. I'd like to thank you for joining Iowa Care Resource Referral at our annual legislative event and conversation. We hope that this morning you can leave feeling equipped to contact us here at Care Resource Referral regarding all your questions with childcare. Today, we ask that participants mute themselves during our speaker portion. Please don't hesitate to utilize the chat, though. That can be for questions or comments throughout our speaker portion. And we will have an opportunity at the end for open conversation and questions. We know that a lot of you will probably have questions with regarding childcare either this morning or later. Please note that we are currently recording for the purpose of sharing this with legislators who could not attend or state partners who could not attend. But we'll stop recording for that Q&A portion. As a reminder, we hope today that you feel that this is more of a conversation and a safe space for sharing and asking your questions, because your voice for our childcare providers and the families that they serve is so vital. And so we really appreciate your attendance today and your future advocacy. I'd like to welcome our host this morning and a very strong champion for Iowa childcare providers and Iowa's children, our Childcare Resource Referral of Northeast Iowa Director, Mary Jansen.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, thanks, Esty. And I have to give a shout out to the team at Childcare Resource Referral and all the work that they did to plan today. We're excited to be here. We're excited that you're here. Couple things. I'm going to talk a little bit about Childcare Resource Referral, introduce you to a little bit about our services, but then I'm going to stop talking because the best part about today is our speakers and the folks that we've invited to talk about childcare. So who is Cca R? Well, just like Esty said, I'm Mary Jansen. I'm the Region 2 Director. I serve Northeast Iowa, but I'm joined with 4 other regional directors. Many of them are on this call that are also covering the other parts of the state and the regional directors. So we welcome you today. Our mission at Iowa Ccr R is that we will provide resources, education, and advocacy to support quality childcare. Ccr R is committed to ensure that Iowa's vision is met. And then for those of you that know, Iowa's vision is that all children beginning at birth will be healthy and successful. A little bit about our services. We do all things childcare. That's how I explain it to my family and friends when they ask exactly what I do on a daily basis. We're really that free service to our childcare community. So our child development homes, our licensed centers, our preschools, but also our communities and our families as well. We support families who are looking for childcare by providing a free childcare referral. At any time that you hear someone express the concern that they're looking for childcare, always direct them to our parent referral line. Our parent referral specialists are phenomenal and they love to help families find childcare, and we'll provide a free childcare referral for them, which is childcare providers that have openings in their area. Our consultants, our training specialists, our community development folks and data, they all do great things across the state, and we're so excited to talk a little bit more about our work. COVID has changed us, that is for sure, as it's changed everyone, right? But what didn't change is the outcome of our success. This past year, our annual report was released and a lot of awesome highlights were shared and that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But investing in Iowa's youngest citizens will strengthen our economy. That is one thing that the report shows. Research shows that increasing access to quality, affordable childcare options does play a critical role in Iowa's workforce. The investment of dollars in childcare resource referral system keeps essential childcare businesses thriving and enhances the overall experience of children in care. Our services help improve the quality of care for all children by promoting their learning, development. Ccr R supports the childcare providers in complying with state regulations, our friends at DHS, shout out to them, and also offers training to improve the quality of their care. We provide the free childcare referrals, just like I talked about, education to families, which we believe is so important. And we also provide that education and support to providers as they're improving quality in the day-to-day environments that they provide. So a little snapshot about what happened in 2021. I love looking and seeing our data every year and just seeing how our staff are doing amazing things across the state. We had 4,960 childcare programs listed with Ccr R. Our consultants in 21 had 42,771 consultation supports to programs. That number is amazing. We are the support and the point for our people and for our child care providers. Parent Services, they aided in 4,609 conversations with families who were seeking childcare, looking for parent resources and trying to find quality care for their family. And this is another important part, especially during the last few years with some emergency preparedness, things that we've had to do to help support our programs. 6,637 technical assistance were provided to our childcare programs across the state in regards to emergency preparedness. From COVID-19 to our December tornado, who would have thought, our staff were continually there to support our providers. We now have a texting platform, which is very cool to support these services and resources. And our childcare providers continue to seek us as the first stop to find out what is available when a disaster strikes. So as I wrap up, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of the additional RDs in your area regarding more of our services. We'd be happy to share more about our services and the wonderful work our staff are doing across the state to increase the quality of childcare. We want you, though, to hear straight from the providers community, and that's exactly what we're going to do this morning, which I'm really excited about. You're going to hear from a vast range of folks, but first, let's kick off with our first speaker. Liz Ernst is the Program Director of Early Childhood Holy Family Catholic Schools, Resurrection Early Childhood Dubuque, and I am the honor to know her personally and just love all the work that Liz does in Dubuque. So Liz, let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you for that intro. Like, that was really nice. As you said, I'm Liz Ernst. I am the program director at Holy Family Catholic Schools, our early childhood program. So in Dubuque, we have 5 different settings. So we have 2 sites that are full child care centers, so birth all the way up to school age. And then we have 3 sites that are located in our elementary schools that are preschool, and then we serve before and after school care. So in total, we probably serve about 600 kids in our programs in the Dubuque area. A little bit about myself. I've been in early childhood for about 15 years. I thought I was going to be an elementary I'm an elementary teacher, and then I got here and I was like, wait, this is pretty good stuff. So I have not left. We've had some really great challenges, some really great successes in the last couple years. And what Mary said, and everybody, is COVID did really throw a wrench in our programming and how we did business. Some of the things were really great and welcome changes. Some of them were hard and things we didn't like as much, but we've learned a lot. We've molded our programs and we're still standing. So we're happy about that. Our successes are, we had our two sites, our childcare sites, we never closed a single day. During our COVID, we remained open. We had services continue. We did not charge our families minimum. So if they did not attend, we just said, stay home, be home, and did not charge our families for services that they did not need. Our staffing remained pretty steady during that time, so we were able to continue employment for all those people. We never lost anybody. We had to furlough some of our 9-month site people, but they were able to get the funding through the workforce, and none of them left us. So we retained most of our people through that. So I would say that is a big success. Recently, we received a lot of funding through the Child Care Challenge Grant and the other grants. But so that is welcome money that will go right to our buildings and help make improvements. So we're seeing big changes there to help make sure that our classrooms are furnished and ready and functioning the way they should be for early childhood. That one not only creates a great space for kids, but on top of that, it creates a great space for employees. And our buildings are great. Our teachers are fantastic, but we're located in old schools and they just are not made for childcare. So, that's a challenge for employees to take children down the hall to the bathroom. So we want to make our buildings not only good for kids, but we want the teachers to not have to worry about ratios being met in bathrooms and walking down the hall and transitions, all that good stuff. So we're really pleased and grateful for those opportunities. Additionally, the Stabilization Grant has been the easiest by far grant to apply for. It was almost like, is this really that easy? Like, that's kind of how we all felt about it. Like, but again, that grant, we are using 100% is going to go right back in the pocket of our employees. So we're not looking at any building things. We're not going to buy a single toy or gadget or anything. We want to say thank you to our employees. You deserve this. Here's your compensation. So we're getting eager about rolling that out, and that is that we're really excited about that. Do I answer this question? I don't know what I'm doing here. So do you want to say something? If you have a question.
Keep going, Liz, and then we'll have questions for after you're done. Yep, you're good.
Thank you. Yeah, you just tell me what to do because this is kind of out of my route.
No, you're doing great.
Okay, thank you. You just tell me when to cut off too. So just like
Keep going. You're good.
Okay, so our challenges. So we have many, and you're going to hear it probably from everybody, is our staffing and our wages are our hugest burden right now. We have space available. We are adding capacity due to our grants, and we're very excited about the opportunity to be able to serve more children and more families, especially in our Dubuque area. We have a North End project that will serve underpopulated area and really a great need in our community. So we're very excited about it. Our worry and concern is, how do we get enough people to work there so we can serve the families? And we have taken great strides to work with our community leaders. I've been very active with, our greater development area, a lot of businesses around town to figure out how we can help employers. And we're not coming up with solutions for that. So, the wages program that I believe is funded through the state is great, but it's a stopping point for our entry-level staff, which is what we see a lot of, is our majority of our people are either low education or no education. And that's where it gets tricky because we need them. They are great providers. They have the best hearts. They are hard workers. They just have no education to go with it. And so they can't even get onto the wages scale to help give them a boost. I haven't really fully immersed myself in the TEACH scholarship, but I know that one is a little tricky too. But that, the wages program, if we could figure out how to lift people up from underneath and then get them trained, I think that would be beneficial. 16-year-olds, I know that's right now in talks with legislation. This would, I believe, would immensely help us. It causes a lot of challenges when a 16-year-old cannot be in count. One, the quality of their job is not great. They are the ones that have to move every, half hour when that ratio gets down. So they're always moving around. And then we can't use them in count if they're by themselves. And in our program, it would not be that person would be left alone in the building. They would be, right next door to somebody. The director or a supervisor would be on site. So we would never leave them unattended. Just they could take care of a group of 6 children on their own for a couple hours is what we were advocating for. We also say that there's a very limited career path. So we're not talked about in early childhood as a career. We're almost like, oh, but you could do childcare if there's nothing else going on. But we're really trying to figure out that career path. There's very limited opportunity to get an endorsement in early childhood, and it doesn't pay anything. So who wants to sign up for a job that doesn't pay to get more qualified? That's tricky. The other thing, so that's staffing. The Cca reimbursement, this is a real challenge for us, especially some of our, like that North End site that we have. They serve a very high percentage of children that receive the reimbursement through the state. And it just does not match what our private pay families pay. And so what happens is we have to raise our rates for our paying families, and that's very hard to not get paid our full amount by taking the families that need the assistance. So if somehow that could be brought up, or each site pays gets reimbursed, that would help. And then a lot of them stay for 10 hours, and so they are here all day, and we get less money. It's very hard to do that. Training and required paperwork. At this point in our lives, directors are in classrooms, and I am so grateful for Dubuque. And where I am at personally is I have a email group of directors that I bounce ideas off probably weekly. So prior to this meeting, I sent out my email to probably about 5 different centers and said, hey, I have this audience. What can you tell me? What are your challenges? And we had very similar challenges. And all of the directors said they are spending some time every day in classrooms supporting children or their teachers, making ratios meet. So that is a fear of getting all of the required paperwork done. There's just not enough hours in the day. And the cost to get employees in our building because of the training that's required, the physical that's required, the fingerprinting, it's so much work to manage and very costly just to bring a person in, and half of the time they leave in 90 days. So we're constantly throwing money out the door and never seeing those people stick. So we talked about a reimbursable training, or one of the directors said, when you hire a teacher at a school, they come to you trained, they have their BOEE certificate, and they are qualified. What is it? What does that look like on an early childhood stance? Is there a certificate that I have my fingerprinting done? I am, mandatory reporter. I am set, and I am hireable. I don't know if that's something we can do on the same scale in this field. I'm turning the page because I have more. Licensing. So we love our consultant. She's so helpful. We can reach out for everything. So that is not a concern by any means, but there is some modernization that probably could take place. So we're all trying to move away from paper and systems, make sure our systems are neater and more organized and more efficient for our families and for us. And licensing is still, every family has to have this paper signed, and you have to have binders of paperwork, and it's a lot of work. So just looking to see if we can get modernization. If they fill out paperwork online and our system is up to date, do we need to have the printed paper in a binder, or can we use our app program? Can we somehow show that we have proof that we know who can pick up and drop off? There seems to be a lot of extra work that's required because we haven't modernized some of those systems. And then the new proposed ratios, I have big concern about this. I think centers like Holy Family and some of Youngins and the other quality centers that we see here in Dubuque, we will not go with the new ratios. If it gets passed, we will say, sorry, that's not our jam, we're not doing it. I fear for the centers that are smaller and they have no choice, and what that does. I fear for the staff that have to take 8 2-year-olds to the bathroom or change 8 2-year-olds diapers. The quality of care is scary in that situation. So I think that is not going to solve the problem. It's going to make more people run out the door and say, I'm not doing this job anymore. So I appreciate that idea coming up, but I don't think that's the solution for getting more people in or making sure ratios are met. And then the IQ 4K, this thing is a beast, and I was 100% scared of it about 3 months ago. And as I'm looking through it, I'm probably more like 40% scared of it now, which is an improvement. But I do have concern about the levels not matching. So from what we have been told is that this is going to elevate us, and I agree that it's good. But right now we are reimbursed at a higher level, at a level 4 QRS. IQ4K is saying the same standards, a level 4. But from what I understand, the tiers are so different. And for a center that functions primarily on CCA, or that's a real big part of their programming, that's going to really hit their bottom line very quickly. So if that could be looked at and maybe it adjusted on a tier system, or, you know, what we've been told is everybody should come in at 1, and then the next year you work on a 2, and you constantly grow. If that trajectory could also go with the CCA payments for reimbursement, I think that would be good. I think that's all I have to say. I appreciate you guys all being here.
No, thanks, Liz. We appreciate your willingness to speak and represent the program in early childhood.
Thank you.
I know we had a question. Do we still have a question? Do we want to take that? Julie or Shirley?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Liz, for your wonderful presentation. Yeah, if you had your hand raised earlier, you can go ahead and unmute and share your question with us.
Maybe not. Maybe we can keep going too and wait till the end.
Yeah, let's do that, Mary. Let's go ahead and go on with our next speaker, and we can wait for the Q&A session at the end.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So our next speaker, we're very excited to also have here today. She is a child development home, and we are excited for her to share a little bit about herself, her business, and her name is Cca Randolph. So Jackie, are you here? There she is.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for asking me to be here. I'm nervous. So
You'll do great.
So like she said, my name is Cca Randolph. I'm a wife, a boy mom, and a daycare provider. I've lived in Florinda, Iowa for a little over 6 years. I lived in a small town prior to Florinda that's about 10 minutes away. So I've lived in this area for all my life. I opened Tender Hearts Daycare in 2017 and became a state certified provider in 2018. When I started daycare, I was doing it as a way to stay home, to be available for my own 2 children. Their dad was gone 4 days a week, and I was their sole caretaker while he was gone. So that's why I started daycare. When I started, I essentially started on Pinterest, other daycare providers in this area. I didn't find out about Cca R until about 3 months into the process of getting licensed for daycare. At that time, the department took care of all of our intake paperwork, and it was stressful. So in 2018, I was finally registered. I moved, and then in 2020, I went ahead and registered to be a Category B home provider, so that I could service more children in my area. When my license expired in 2020, I was required to re-register. During that time, it took almost 6 months for my paperwork to be processed and submitted through the database. The one holdup that I had to go over the caseworker for was I didn't have an up-to-date lease agreement, and my landlord, who we were on contract to buy the house from, stated that the lease agreement hadn't changed and was still the same. I was told that I had to contact them for written consent, that the house and the agreement had not changed, and then I had to wait another week for my license to be issued. Where was I? Sorry. So in that time, CACFP, which is the food program, was needing my license. I ran into this with a couple different agencies where if I didn't have that license, I wasn't going to be paid. So that is very stressful for providers when we are putting in our paperwork and it's not making it in time. But Care Resource Referral was there for me during all of this. Kept in constant contact with my representative, and she made sure to check with me and let me know what she was finding out on her end. They really advocated for me during this time, and went to great lengths to make sure that I had that certificate. So I do appreciate that from them. If I hadn't had them to ask for help and get me to the right people, I may not have re-registered for daycare. It was super stressful, but they kept me going. So after helping me to get all my stuff for my license, I received the license via mail and went on with daycare. Kept pushing in the middle of a pandemic of something we weren't even sure of what it was. During that time, I tried keeping up with the latest updates given by the
Okay, I can't turn it down even. None of my buttons work.
Keep going, Jackie. Sorry.
Okay. I was just trying to keep up with the latest updates given by the state and the CDC. The one thing that was helpful during the pandemic is that the state and involved agencies offered online classes. Before, you had to try and find time to make a person to block off an entire day. It's nice being able just to hop on Zoom and go to class. I live in a rural area, so all of the classes that are close to 20 to 30 minutes, all the way to 2 hours for me to just drive, take the class, and then come home. In my time during daycare, I've had many opportunities presented to me. I was able to apply for TEACH, which is the grants that we talked about earlier. I went back to college for 2 semesters during the pandemic. While I was super grateful for the opportunity, I realized that I couldn't find time for family, school, and daycare. I mean, I was only in a couple classes, but you have daycare, business, paperwork, all of the above, along with trying to help your family at nighttime. I did go ahead and take a step back from school to make sure I could implement what I had learned into my home and my program as well. I do love seeing the children who've aged out of my program and go to another program in our community. Since I'm just a category B provider, I can't do the preschool stuff. I just don't have the room for it. I love that when they come up to me and show me all the new things they have learned since leaving me. I'll also love that when I'm out in the community and the children who have been to my daycare just come up and give me a hug. That's one of the best feelings, is when they're like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you." I've kept in close contact with Care Resource Referral throughout my time in daycare and have gotten to know quite a few of them, especially during the pandemic. They are there for us when we need someone to talk to. They have explained numerous things to me over the past few years when they would update or change our regulations as providers. They also make sure we get all our paperwork we need in, along with keeping up with us and getting our certificates and classes taken for DHS required hours. Child Care Resource Referral has been an amazing resource for me as a child care provider. They send us the latest trainings in our area, along with the latest guidelines the state has sent out. There's so many running parts to opening and owning a daycare. It's not just accept the kids and that's it. There's paperwork, getting to know the children, making sure you have the supplies that said child might need. There are also all of the certificates and hours we are required to keep current. We also have to find time to fit in, along with doing business. There is a huge need for childcare, especially for babies and toddlers. I get at least 2 or 3 parents a week contacting me. And while yes, changing the guidelines could help, I also believe that providers need to have a point where they have a boundary on how many kids they are taking at certain ages, because it is easy to get overwhelmed, no matter who you are. So I just believe that to not be burnt out, we would need boundaries. And while yes, they gave us a little bit more leeway, like Lisa said, or I think that's how you say her name, sorry. Maybe not such a good idea, because people don't always have boundaries to set for themselves. I am also looking forward to the new I4K program that is being rolled out. Also scared of it as well. And that's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. It's kind of fun to hear the kids in the background too, having fun.
Yeah, my office is right outside and there's a gate and they're all staring at me.
We're ready for you to come back. We won't take you long. We won't take you for too long. Okay,
Yeah.
Shirley, any questions in the chat?
I don't see any questions, Mary. Thank you so much,
All
Jackie.
right. Yeah, thanks, Jackie.
No problem.
We appreciate, there's a little munchkin. We appreciate all you do. Aw. Perfect. Okay, next speaker. We are also excited. We believe a parent's voice is also very important. So we're excited to have Amanda Martins here today. She also has a very close connection to Child Care Resource Referral. So Amanda, are you ready?
I'm ready. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Amanda Martins. I'm a professor at Simpson College in Indianola, Iowa. My mom works for Cca R, and she volunteered me to share our issues with finding daycare when we moved back to Iowa in 2019. So in March 2019, I was offered the position as professor at Simpson College. Our baby was born on July 2019. And we started looking for early childcare as soon as March. Am I frozen? Uh-oh.
You're good now. Keep going. Yep.
We started looking for childcare in March as soon as I accepted the offer at Simpson, but could not find what we thought was quality and affordable daycare in Des Moines or Indianola. The spots we wanted were full and had wait lists. And so we made the hard decision to keep my husband home. The first year, he's an elementary ed teacher. And because of the nature of his job, we knew it would be at least a year that he would stay home. We did think about having him go back as a sub and finding daycare, but again, the spots that we wanted were full. And then the pandemic hit in the middle of my first year as a professor. And we again thought about, do we keep him home another year? Or do we keep looking? We ran into the problem again that the spots we wanted were full. The places that we could get into at the time we thought were too costly, especially because we knew we wanted more kids and we'd want consistent daycare where both kids or multiple kids were going. And so he stayed home the second year during the pandemic. In January 2020, one of my good colleagues was leaving to go to another school, and the only reason we got into the daycare we wanted is because she told me first that she would be pulling her 2 kids out of the daycare and to call them the same day that she was telling them she was pulling her kids out. So she called her daycare provider, said, I'm pulling my kids out. And then I called and said, hey, I need a spot for the August that she's pulling them out. And so we got the spot. We're very happy with the spot we have now. With that, we are now pregnant with baby number 2. I'm 8 months pregnant and on maternity leave. Our daycare provider was the first person we told we were pregnant. We didn't tell our parents. We went straight to our daycare provider because she is so sought after. So at that time, I was 6 weeks pregnant. And to put that into context for you, most medical offices will not confirm a pregnancy until 8 weeks. So it wasn't even confirmed with the doctor yet before we had to get our spot. She had 1 spot open for the following August. So we got it. Both our kids will be in daycare in the same daycare starting in August. But with maternity leave, I am home taking a cut to my salary. And we're keeping our oldest daughter home because of things like COVID. But to keep our spot, we're continuing to pay for daycare. So those are some of our kind of financial challenges, is that we're still paying for these spots, even though we're not using them at the time, just to make sure that when I do go back to work, we have them. The kind of big shocker for me was that I did not expect, with my level of education and salary, we would have a hard time finding daycare. I thought it was going to be fine, and it was more of a challenge than I expected. And I also thought with the resources available to me, I'd be able to find it, pretty quickly. I'm a researcher by nature, but it just took quite a bit of time to find that right spot with everything we were looking for that was affordable to us. So that's our story. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Wow, that is a great story. Also hard story to deal that what we see what families are dealing with. Thank you so much for sharing. Any questions for Amanda? If you had a magic wand, Amanda, for parents, or what would you, how would you make it easier to find childcare?
Oh goodness, I think some of our challenges were prices were not upfront. we'd get into the process way into it before we'd find out the cost and then when we found out the cost, we're like, whoa, that's way more than we were thinking. Like some of the centers that we could have gotten into are double of what we're paying now. And so I think that's a big one, knowing costs up front, and then being able to get to know your provider up front would be really helpful. And what we were looking for was very consistent daycare in home, with a small number of kids that had a very good schedule, that had time for play, time for nap, quiet time, was very routine. Because I do research, I was hearing about all the turnover in centers. The centers I felt were outside of our budget. So I guess the two big things up front would be getting to know them easier and that knowing the cost right away.
That's great advice. Thank you.
I don't see any additional questions for you, Amanda, but yeah, thanks so much for sharing your perspective on parent choice as well. You know, we talk a lot too about how important it is that parents have a choice. So thank you so much for your sharing your story.
Definitely. And congrats on the little one. I know Grandma Deb will be sharing pictures. Okay, next up, we have one of our partners who I cannot say enough great things about Early Childhood Iowa and the things that they do for Child Care Resource Referral. We have Patricia Rasmussen here from Promise Partners, Thriving Families Alliance. So Patricia, are you ready?
Hi, yep,
You are, all right.
I am. Hi. So yes, I'm Patricia Russman and I am with Thriving Families Alliance. We've recently changed our name from Promise Partners. I actually support the boards, the Early Childhood Iowa Board for Pottawatomie County, as well as the Early Childhood Iowa Board for Harrison, Monona, Shelby counties. So I've got two area boards that I'm working with. You know, I really appreciate the three speakers that we've already heard from, and I don't want to repeat too much of what they have already said, but I think they did a wonderful job of giving a nice overview of what the childcare system looks like from different perspectives. And I'm really glad that we had a home provider highlighted as well as the center. I think that oftentimes when we're talking a lot about the lack of childcare in the state, and we're doing a lot of work around trying to build new childcare centers and invest in new centers, and I really appreciate that. But we have to remember that those home providers are also a critical part of the system, and that we need to have that parent choice available to us. So I appreciate that we had all of those voices included this morning. The one thing that I do want to reiterate and repeat that was mentioned this morning, though, is that the concerns around the proposed change in ratios. And I appreciate looking at trying to problem solve the availability, but we really need to make sure that we are balancing quality with quantity. And that if that change were to exist, it would really concern me about that. It would potentially decrease the quality and even some safety concerns that I would have with that. So that is the one thing I thought was worth repeating. Mm-hmm. So in our area, you know, and I don't think we're unique in this, but one of the additional challenges that we have in just kind of overall lack of available childcare is that we do not have shift care in our communities. And we have so many businesses that are 24/7 between the hospitality businesses, the manufacturing plants, meatpacking plants, things like that. And we do not have those available non-traditional hour childcare slots in our community. And that's really becoming a big issue. We've been working with our chamber and trying to come up with some additional solutions. So we're hoping that we can build on perhaps some public-private partnerships and have some businesses step up to the plate and help us with that, trying to problem solve that as well. I really want to thank the legislators for the progress that they did make the last legislative session. We greatly appreciate all the conversations and hard work that were put into that. And there was great progress made on addressing the cliff effect. But now is the time that we need to really look at making that critical investment to ensure that we're building a better supply of available childcare options, that we're promoting quality, and that we're supporting those providers who care for our children and our families. We really have made a lot of progress, I think, in understanding that this is critical to our economic development for our state. And not only that in the current economic development, but that we're also understanding that these are the critical years for these children, and they're our future workforce. They're our future business leaders, entrepreneurs, probably our future legislators as well. And so we need to make sure that we are investing in that quality piece so that we are making the most of those early years for those children to grow up and thrive and be successful and productive members of our community and our state to drive that economic development and growth for the state of Iowa. I also just wanted to talk about the partnership that Early Childhood Iowa has with Child Care Resource and Referral. They, really, I think of Child Care Resource and Referral as the scaffolding that is needed for the childcare system. And so whether you are creating a new business from the ground up, or you're, and I think about some of the conversations that we've had in our community with some small towns that have no childcare in their community, and they're talking about trying to start a childcare center. And that's where I bring in the CCR and our consultant to kind of bring that business in a box to them and start helping them think through all of the pieces of what they would need to put in place for that. And then if it's just something where you're trying to expand or build on to your childcare, you still need that technical assistance, and you need the training and consultation around how to do that and do it well. And sometimes maybe it's just your normal ongoing maintenance that you need. And again, you still need that technical assistance that can be provided by CCR and R. One of the things that we've done for years with CCR and R is our Early Childhood Iowa boards provide some funding and additional resources so that childcare providers can have some mini grants to go along with their work in trying to work their way up in the quality rating system. And with our new revised system coming out, we'll hope to continue to do that because they need those additional resources. And as you've already heard, they cannot afford those things. And so it might be something where they're able to do a small remodel to get the child size sink put into their space, or it might be some developmental curriculum and developmentally appropriate toys to increase that quality. So that is one of the successful programs that we've had with CCR and R in our area for many years, and we hope to continue that.
Awesome.
And I know we have other speakers, so I'm gonna cut it off and let you talk to others unless anybody has any specific questions for me.
I think we have a question.
Mary, I think we have a question from Candace. He raised his hand.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Yes, actually, it's not Candace Bradley. It's I'm Representative Steve Bradley,
Okay.
and I'm using her computer. But
Okay.
anyway, I just have a comment on the ratios and using the 16 and 17-year-olds. And I think we've had requests for that. I think the 16 and 17-year-olds is a very good request, letting them help out with childcare centers. As far as the ratios, we've had a number of childcare centers ask us for that, and that's why that was put forward. So I just, and I appreciate your comments, Liz and Patricia, on the ratio aspect of it. Just contact your representatives, your senators about that, whether you're for or against it. And we appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patricia, also for taking time to speak. We could not do our work without our partners at Early Childhood Iowa, so we thank you. Okay, next up, we have a really exciting speaker, and she's so excited to be here. I know she is. We have Natalie from the Waterloo Career Center, and if you're not familiar with the Waterloo Career Center, that is a part of the Waterloo Community School District. It is a career center that allows high school students to focus on their next steps in their careers. And so students take specialized tracks, coursework to determine their next steps. And I am probably one of their larger fans in this community because we partner so close with them. But they also have an early childhood track, which we have seen around 30 students the last 2 semesters go through this program. We partner with them at Cca R to put them through all of the pre-service trainings, which we call Child Care Ready. So those students work alongside SD to complete that training. And next month, we're starting a paid field experience pilot at a child care center here in Waterloo that we hope to model even further out soon. But Natalie's here. She's a student. She's in early childhood track, and she's here to give us a great message. So Natalie, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Goings and I am a Waterloo Career Center student enrolled in the early childhood program. I am currently taking my 3rd and 4th classes in the program, so at the end of the semester I will complete the program. I work at Happy Time Preschool and Daycare after school and in the summers. I work about 10 hours a week during the school week, and I love the experience that I get while taking these classes and working at Happy Time. I plan to attend UNI next year, and I hope to someday be an elementary school teacher. So I've had the opportunity to work alongside preschool teachers and students at Elk Run Preschool through the Career Center's early childhood program, and I have learned how creative young children are, but also how stubborn they can be and how to work with them. So I am here today to talk about why I feel that it is so important to work together to continue the efforts towards career training opportunities in the early childhood field while dual enrolled in these high school and college classes. Careers in early childhood are unique in that they not only benefit those in the workforce, but they also prepare people who want to be a parent someday. The Career Center classes have given me a solid background about how important it is to be highly qualified in this field, and this program is preparing me to join a workforce in which I'm highly trained and ready to care for kids and families. I have found a passion and I am ready to make important decisions about what could be a lifetime career. I have taken my 12 modules of childcare ready training. I have received my CPR and first aid training, my mandatory reporter training, and I've done my universal precautions training. Decades of research indicate that early childhood education significantly boosts children's readiness to learn. So it is important that we take these trainings and we are able to provide early childhood programs for children to start at a young age. While teaching little children can be energizing and wonderful, it can also be very exhausting. Childcare workers have many duties, including changing diapers, feeding children, playing with kids, talking to families, and just making sure that every child's every need is met. And the burnout rate in the early childhood education field is high due to fatigue, a lot of back injuries happen, exposure to illnesses, and of course, low wages. An increase in wages would draw in many more childcare workers because many people that work in the childcare field are high school and college students that are working to pay for their education. According to Governor Reynolds' Childcare Task Force, 23% of Iowans live in childcare deserts, so there's not childcare providers near them. And if childcare providers or workers were paid more, there would be more people willing to work in childcare, and there would be more centers available to provide childcare to these people in the deserts. So since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have found out how essential daycare providers are, and we need to do everything we can to get more childcare workers. I am hopeful that childcare workers' wages will increase in the future, and support to fund programs like the Career Center will also help provide opportunities for technical education in this field and will allow students to be qualified for their dream career working with Iowa's children. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to visit today.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalie. We appreciate you being here. That you do it awesome. And I love the fact that she also works at a child care center and can give that voice as well as being in a classroom. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Natalie?
I don't see any specific questions, Mary, for Natalie. Thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing your story and advocating for all of the things that you talked about. So thank you. We appreciate having you here. And I think it'd be a good time to roll into a bigger Q&A, Mary, if you're ready.
Okay, we got one more speaker though.
Oh, okay.
We're saving the best for last. We got Mindy from Vermeer. She's been waiting very patiently. So I know I'm going to let Mindy, you tell all about the good things that Vermeer is doing. So take it away.
Mary, I'm sorry to interrupt, but David Seek just put his hand up. He'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I thought we were done and we're going to do the question and answer. I can wait till after the presentation. You changed it midstream, sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Couple more minutes. We'll be back to you. Okay, Mindy, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I'll be fairly quick on this. So coming at it from a little bit of a different story here. So I work for Vermeer Corporation. I actually manage one of our product groups from a commercialization standpoint. So childcare is not my background. But about 10 years ago, we have a team member meeting every quarter, and team members started coming to us saying, we're having trouble finding childcare. You know, we start at 5:30 in the morning. No one can find a place for their children that early. I think another big thing is with preschool schedules of schools, you know, if they drop off at 8:30, pick up at 11:30, if you're in manufacturing, you can't do that. And so we needed an option for our employees to have that education, to have their kids prepared to go into kindergarten, but also just how do we support them from their work schedule. So we looked into a center, and about 8 years ago, we ended up building Yellow Iron Academy. So that's our child care center. It is open to the public, but we give kind of a little bit of a price decrease for our employees. And also they get priority on the wait list. So we do have quite a big wait list right now. We opened the center for 148 kids. Once COVID hit, we are down to 106. So one thing we did was we lessened the number of kids in the classroom. We added more staff, of course, because we had to give different breaks. You guys maybe all know this more than me, but you know, at the end of the day, Vermeer is supporting the center. So it ended up, unfortunately, being a lot of cost. And then we now can go back up to our 148 kids, but we can't find teachers. So we've got at all times 4 to 5 openings. Same as others have said, we've got our entire management team from the center in classroom giving breaks. We've also gone out to the school system looking for the 18 and over, which is tough to find kids who might want to come work before or after school, being in the classroom. You know, and I think we heard about this. We started struggling with losing employees even probably 4 years ago, just with the fact that they could go to Walmart and make more money. And one of my favorite leaders of one of the classrooms left us, and it kind of hit us of how are we losing these people who have a lot of talent. So we were pretty proactive, and we actually started raising our pay quite a bit, like I'd say 3-4 years ago, even before COVID, because we didn't want to lose people anymore. We know how hard it is even at Vermeer to lose people and that cost. And if you have the right people in the position, we got to keep them. So we gave a couple dollar raises to all of our employees, got them above, you know, a certain level. And now everyone's hiring and paying more. And so we still lose people. So, you know, again, I think back to just the challenges of what we're looking at from a company who is trying to be proactive and get, you know, what we need from our employees to have a good day at work because they know their kids are taken care of. The biggest challenge now is classrooms shutting down. When I talked to the center yesterday, you know, there's a lot of different rules on what they're supposed to do if there's a case in the classroom. And so I think that's still a little bit gray on how to manage it. But also just, you know, we've got to do something to help the pay of the teachers, I think. So for us, we always talk about, you know, if we raise everyone's salary or wages, we almost have to then go raise the tuition costs. And then the parents can't afford it. And our number one priority when we opened the center was to make it affordable for all employees. So the person who's in the assembly area to the person who's in, you know, a management role, we're paying the same. and we had to get it to the price where it could be affordable for all. So I think that goes back to, yeah, what do we do? And again, you guys all had a lot of good feedback on different things that's already passed through Iowa, and I'm not as aware of those, but I do know we got some support over the last couple of years from the state. And so appreciative of that, because there was more cost, and we added a lot of labor in, and also just protocol, right, to make sure we're keeping kids safe during COVID. So yeah, I appreciate the time to hear the story, and appreciate that I was being forward thinking about it, because I think that's important. I think that's something the state does well, is take care of getting people to the state, but then also focusing on childcare. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Mindy, quick question I have for you. When you think about your recruitment and retention of your employees at Vermeer and adding the childcare, overall, what do you feel that did for your company?
Yeah, that was a huge thing. So it wasn't just retention and recruiting, but we did find that when we first opened it, more and more people did pop over to Vermeer because they had heard about it, and they felt it was a good fit for their family. And now I think it's just so hard to find people. I'm not sure if that puts us in a bracket that gets people excited, but
right.
Definitely the employees who do have their kids there appreciate, it's a quarter-mile drive from your desk. We asked parents can go up. Well, they used to be able to, not anymore, but they used to go have lunch with kids or go see them during the day. So there's definitely a benefit to it. But now we find out that our wait list is so big, even with giving employees priority, we can't get our employees in. And so, eventually we'll roll, being open 8 years, some of those community kids who started in the beginning are slowly starting to roll out the other side, but it's still difficult to have enough space. And actually, Marion County did a study about that same time, about 10 years ago, that we had over 900 spots needed for childcare in the county. So again, there's a big need. So
yeah.
Anything we can do to continue moving that along is important.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Good information. Okay. Appreciate your time, Mindy, and everything Vermeer's doing. We appreciate their great model for across the state. Questions? I know we've got a hand raised, so let's go ahead and allow you to ask your question.
Oh, hey, thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank all of you for all the work you do with the next generation of people coming up in the state of Iowa. And I know it's challenging, and we appreciate all you do, and especially through this COVID mess. So I hope my internet's stable. Here in the last 2 or 3 minutes, I started getting a little unstable, so things were chopping around. So I guess if you guys had a hierarchy of which things are the most important, do you put a list together of their importance so that we have an idea what that is? That's one thing I would be concerned about. I mean, I've got the staffing and wages. I've got reimbursements from the state that doesn't match the private care. And I'd like to kind of know what that difference is, and I know, it's no different than a lot of other healthcare things. The private pay ends up paying for part of the public share, and eventually that screws the whole thing up. And I think those are important questions. And I think those are probably my main. And as you know, we've been trying to put more and more money into it and listen to what you guys need. So we need lists of, importance. So we have an idea of where to head, because, there is a lot of need, not only in this part of, child care, but all, especially since COVID, we have just so much mental health and everything else that's going on this year, that it's going to be a lot of work to try to find ways to take care of all of this. So I think if we can prioritize and the staffing and wages, and then lack of places, that I don't know how fast we're going to get that to go away, but we're continuing to work on it. So, and like I said today, I appreciate this call, so I can hear, tidbits of what's happening, and, maybe my questions don't need to be answered right now, but maybe just a follow up with us to let us know what's going on would be great. So,
yeah, I think those are really great points. And I think what we'll have our local area staff person just follow up with you with some of those data points that you're asking too, and then make sure we share that out. So
yeah, I think it'd be great for us to know, what's the most critical path forward and what's the most important to everybody. And I know it won't be the same for everybody, but if we can kind of get a consensus of where we're headed or what we need, because I think we're committed to keep trying to help wherever we can. So
definitely. Yep. I think we heard it. We heard several points loud and clear, especially the workforce piece. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you again
David,
for everybody. Yeah.
David,
Thanks
you're
for
in my
being here.
area, so I'll be reaching out to you shortly. So.
Oh,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Thanks, Shirley.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Shirley and Julie, I think, do we have more questions?
Yep, we have one more hand up. Jacob, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question or give your comment.
Sure. I guess my question is for Vermeer, even though I understand it's probably a question you can't answer. In the legislation I've introduced, I've been trying to focus on how do we get more businesses to get into this sphere. And so I guess my question is, you know, Vermeer did this, but what do we need to do as a state that will help a lot of those other businesses that are maybe on the fence about getting into the childcare industry? Can you enlighten me a little bit, when you started the process, what were some of the concerns? Was there funding concerns? Was there liability issues? Was it just that you hadn't been involved as a company in this area before? You know, in our area, some of the major employers like, you know, Tyson and Wealthwood Bunny, I guess I just need to understand, what do we as a state need to do to sort of knock them off the fence? If they're kind of on the fence about getting into the childcare arena or not, what do we as a state need to do, whether it's you know, liability issues or whether it's tax credits? I'm just trying to get a sense of what we need to do to help more people do what Vermeer did.
Yeah, so we looked at it again about 8 years ago. I think the biggest thing is we ended up going with a third party because we did not want the liability. We also did not know how to manage a center. We knew what our wheelhouse was, and it wasn't that. So we ended up going with a third party who took all that liability. What we ended up doing, we used a USDA grant to get the building built. So at least there was a little bit of support from, you know, the outlay of the money to build the building. You know, I think probably the biggest thing is, you know, Vermeer was willing, knowing that it made sense for our employees to do this. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big cost every month because we're subsidizing again so that we can keep the tuition rate low enough so that everyone can afford it. So yeah, I mean, there has to be, I think, a little bit of incentive potentially, unless you can figure out the right mix that you're not having to financially support a ton of it. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you could make a claim that you're, you know, whether it's retention or attraction. I mean, there is a value, but we also know it makes sense that our people are at work because they know their kids are in a safe spot and taken care of. So yeah, I don't know if it's just looking at the benefits and making sure that you talk that through with employees to understand the importance of the impact it makes. But there is a financial strain. So I mean, that's a key piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'd also direct you to the governor's Child Care Task Force report too. And there was some recommendations. We had a business subcommittee that really kind of focused in on what businesses need. And a lot of it was, the recommendation came forward was tax credits, create an Iowa child care tax credit program. So we can send that to you, Jacob, that report. I'm sure you have it, but just in case, and it just kind of walk through. There's also a property tax. There's also some different things that businesses expressed would be a great incentive.
Mary, we do have one more question from Claire. Claire, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi
We
there.
have two more questions. So
Yeah, not really a question, just more of a comment. From a public policy standpoint, I think it's best to focus taxpayer dollars on community resources in childcare, not giving tax credits to large corporations. Corporations are already getting tons of tax credits and tax breaks right now. As a senator, I would much rather give tax credits to community-based projects that are open to everyone, and then subsidize low-income folks to be able into those. Now, I understand Vermeer's particular problem that they had shift work and manufacturing work in the early hours. That to me is a perfect, you know, situation where they need to have their own childcare business. But we shouldn't be subsidizing corporations, in my opinion, to compete against the other entities out in the community that are open to everyone. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Nope, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay,
Right.
I think we have time for one more question too, as our last question. Representative Art State, do you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question or give your comment quickly?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to thank everyone here for the opportunity to listen to the concerns and possible solutions. I'm also heartened that there are a lot of Republicans and Democrats on this call. Hopefully we can do some real good follow-up after this. I heard some of the speakers that I think there were actually solutions that were given in their comments, and would like to be able to move some of this stuff forward. So thank you again for having this today and for everybody that participated.
Awesome. Thank you. Great way to end the call. Appreciate that. So thank you everyone for being here. Happy Friday. We appreciate your time. I also just want to thank Liz, Jackie, Amanda, Patricia, and Mindy. We wouldn't have been able to do today without you. So, and thank you for all the work you do. And Shirley, Bobby, Julie, and SD, the true champions of today. They made everything come together, and we appreciate everything they did. So have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for all you do for Iowa's children, and we will see you soon.